Today on TNT Big Show, will The Witcher 4 and Grand Theft Auto 6 come to the Switch 2? All today on TNT Big Show. Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Michelle Nantucket.
And this is Sean.
Welcome to our channel, and this is from Push Square. I know it's a Sony website, but they're going to help us because they give out accurate information on this about the Switch 2 versus PS5 comparison. Because a lot of people think that the Switch 2 may not be able to do The Witcher 4 and Grand Theft Auto 6 because of their heavy reliance on CPU. Some games are more GPU based, like Street Fighter, and games like that, but some, because of their open world aspects and NPCs, they're more CPU densified. So, are they going to bring them to the Switch 2? Well, let's get into this. The PS5, and I'm not going to put the PS5 Pro in here, but the base PS5 has 8 times Zen 2 cores at 3.5 gigahertz. The Switch 2 dock has NVIDIA T239 chip, 8 times ARM Cortex at 878C at 998 megahertz in handheld, NVIDIA T239 chip, 8 times ARM Cortex A78C at 101 megahertz. When you first think about it, you're like, the Switch 2 can't compete. 2 things to remember, or 3 things to remember. Number 1, the DLSS, which will take a lot of strain off the CPU. Another thing you have to remember is every development kit used by company, they always open up more memory as time goes on because they figure out how to properly manage the memory inside the system. Now, the Switch 2 has 12 gigabytes of RAM. But as of right now, Nintendo, they're giving 9 gigabytes for gaming. But see, in a year or so, this is why games start to look better the more time goes by, because the developers unlock more gigabytes in memory.
Potential.
Yeah, and it unlocks more potential for the system.
And I want to add something real quick. Like, can they run it? Believe me, with Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, and Borderlands 4, Grand Theft Auto and them, Witcher 4, they should be no problem at all.
Yeah, but we're still going to explain how, though. Because now Super Metal Dave did a great video, we're going to link that, where he talks about if you just go by individual cores, the Switch 2 cores are actually better than the PlayStation 5 cores.
They are.
The problem is Nintendo didn't put in as many cores as Sony did. But that being said, 1.1 gigahertz in handheld and about 1 gigahertz in docked mode is still very good, especially for portable devices, so that will help. Now, GPU. The PS5 has an AMD Radeon RDNA 2 graphics engine with 10.28 teraflops at 2.23 gigahertz. The Switch 2 has an NVIDIA Ampere graphics engine, 1,536 CUDA cores, which equals about nearly 2 teraflops. This is docked. With docked, the teraflops go way up, but since there hasn't been an official number released, we're just going to go to 3.5 to 4. 1007, capable of 4K 60 frames per second with HDR10 support. Switch 2 handheld, NVIDIA Ampere graphics engine, and that means that it's a little more powerful raw spec-wise than a PS4. But again, the reason why the Switch 2 looks a lot better than the PS4, better architecture, better chips, DLSS, VRR, and HDR. Capable of 1080p up to 120 frames per second, HDR10 support. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. RAM. The PS5 has 16 gigabytes of DDR6 at 14 Gbps. The Switch 2 has 12 gigabytes of LPDD at 102 gigabytes a second. The Switch 2 in handheld has the same 12 gigabytes LPDDR56 at 68 gigabytes a second. And also, the Switch 2, unlike the PS5, has AI upscaling. Wi-Fi now, the Switch 2 and the base PS5 both use Wi-Fi 6, Ethernet, and Bluetooth. These are all reasons why the Switch 2 will be able to run The Witcher 4 and Grand Theft Auto 6.
Because like I said, they're running Madden, they're running WW2K25. Folks, seriously, they're going to be able to do it. They just are.
Well, also, Rockstar said that, yeah, the Series S is running Grand Theft Auto 6. And CD Projekt Red said The Witcher is running on the the Series S as well. Now, will the Switch 2 version be 4K 60 frames per second? I don't think it will. But can it reach at least 1080p 30 frames per second? Yes, same as the Series S. This is one area where the PS5 and Xbox do outdo the Switch 2, and that's their CPU performance. Even with DLSS and stuff, and I know that, I'm not stupid, but will they look better in some areas, the Switch 2 version? Yes, because of DLSS. The texturing and the cleanness will be better. So that's probably what's going to happen. These games are going to come to the Switch 2. And because the Switch 2 is selling in record numbers and Cyberpunk has been a huge hit on the Switch 2, CD Projekt Red will make it run on the Switch 2. And Rockstar knows that the Switch 2 is taking the place of the Xbox as the number 1 or 2 option for third-party games. So they're going to try their best to be like, well, we got to get it on the Switch 2 so we can get more sales.
Well, and also, again, folks, I hate to say this, we're going to do a video on it, but honestly, folks, we might as well just suck it up and bear it. If we don't buy game key cards, and third parties like, wait a minute, our games aren't selling on the Switch 2.
Yeah.
They're not going to make them.
Yeah.
Much as I hate game key cards, we're just going to have to suck it up and buy them.
Like I said, I don't think people mind as much. Like The Witcher 4 is probably going to be like 170 gigabytes.
I know, but even with big companies, I was like, well, the smaller companies. Yes, you mean smaller companies like to make Puyo Tetris or Bravely Default? Come on.
Well, that's different. Those games aren't gigabyte suckers,
And yet they choose to put it on GameCube.
Yeah, I agree, that's bad. But what I'm saying is that people will be more forgiving, because I have a feeling Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be around 200 gigabytes, and there's no way they can compress that down. There's not. So you're just going to have to, that's just like if you think it's going to be physical on the PlayStation or Xbox, no. It's just going to be download only on all the machines. I think that's what people are mad at, is like, Puyo Tetris and them are totally physical on PlayStation and stuff, but a key card on the Switch 2? And to clear a rumor up, third-party games are not flopping on the Switch 2.
No.
One company did complain about that, and if you put 2 and 2 together, it's Warner Brothers Studios. Because both the Hitman and Hogwarts Legacy barely make it in any of the top charts.
But see, here's one thing though. I think people, because how are they going to do this with the other games? What do you mean, Sean? Hogwarts Legacy on the regular Switch is still selling great. It is. They're like, what's going on, Sean? People are just upgrading.
Yeah.
They're not buying the Switch 2 version, they're just upgrading.
Yeah, but the thing is that with the Switch 2 selling so phenomenally well, they say by the first year the Switch 2 is going to sell 25 million units, and probably by 2027 when The Witcher 4 comes, it'll probably be well over 50 million units, and CD Projekt Red is not going to miss an opportunity to put a game that big that can sell millions and not put it on the Switch 2. The Witcher is one of those games where its big audience is PC gamers, so it'll probably sell the most on the PC. But I could see the Switch 2 version even outselling the PS5 because of the portability factor. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to run on the Switch 2, and I think The Witcher 4 is going to run on the Switch 2 as well. Because like Sean said, the Switch 2 is more powerful than you people think. It basically is a mini PS5.
It is. As much as the video game media and the industry tried to hide that and tried to lie about it, it is as powerful as a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, like I said, you have to take into consideration DLSS, VRR, and HDR. Those count because they're in the machine.
Because I can just say something right now. There are times, Street Fighter 6, WWE 2K25, where the Switch 2 version looks better And like, what do you mean, Sean? Well, there are some black wrestlers in the game, and on the Switch 2, they look black. On the PS5, they got the Michael Jackson disease. I mean, really?
Yeah, but, you know, it's just... But I do think the one area the Switch 2 will not do as well as the Series X and PS5 on is frame rates. Although it'll be able to match them pretty well. It's just... But the fact is that I think both Grand Theft Auto 6 and The Witcher 4 are going to be 1080p, 30 frames per second.
They'll be rock solid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know. And you will get some areas, in some areas, that will look better. You know, a lot of people just can't believe how clean the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk is, even when you compare it to the PS5 and Series X. Another thing I think there's going to be a little sacrifice on is NPC count. When you watch the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk, there's a lot of NPCs in some areas, but in some areas the PS5 has more. You know, because of, again, but don't let that deter you from buying the Switch 2 versions if that's what you want. You know, a few sacrifices may have to be made, but the fact is that the Switch 2 version is going to have an advantage over them in some areas, and it's going to be a portable version. And so really, you'll be running at 1080p, 30 frames per second in handheld, and that's going to be a heck of a lot better than what the Steam Deck can do. So that's what you should really look at, is the Switch 2 is going to be able to run these games actually really good. And who knows, maybe Nintendo opening up a gigabyte of memory in the system, it may help the Switch 2 versions run just as good as the PS5 and the Series X versions. Never count out the Switch 2, folks. It's a lot more powerful than what people give it credit for. But, you know, I'm not going to insult the Xbox and PlayStation. Those machines are incredibly powerful. You know, people are like, well, they're not a PC. Nothing will ever be. But if you can compare it to mid-range to higher-end PCs, like the Switch 2, like the PS5, and like the Xbox Series X, you're dealing with very powerful hardware. So who knows? Maybe the Switch 2 versions can run at 40 to 60 frames per second. Maybe they can have higher resolution as developers figure out how to use the machine better. I mean, because you got to remember, Cyberpunk 2077 was only running 30 frames per second when it first came out on the PS5 and the Series X and S. But as CD Projekt Red got more memory and they were able to figure out how to use the machines better, they upped the frame rate to 60 frames per second, just like the PC version. So let's see what happens. You know, but I do think, yes, they're going to come to the Switch 2.
I hope so.
Yep. And if you like our content, folks, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This is me, Michelle Nantucket.
And this is Sean.
Have a good one. Thank you for staying to the end of the video and watching it. If you like all of our videos, don't you join our other social medias like TikTok, Discord, Reddit, Instagram, Thread, X, and our WordPress blog. You can also support us by joining Patreon for as little as $1 a month, where you will get exclusive content, uncut videos, behind the scenes, watch that trailer, Jack's joke of the week, and my sports input. If you join the $25 tier, I will send you an autographed copy of the Buzzies for free. If you love horror movies and independent content, we're a great place to come and visit because we love supporting other independent creators and stuff. When you support us, you're supporting people who do all of this by ourselves. Me, Michelle, I'm the editor, I'm the director of the videos, I'm the producer, Sean's the executive producer and content creator. So thank you, everybody, and please look into supporting our Patreon, as it really does help out. Just $1 a month. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.